Everything was then a blur as I slowly woke up from the coma on the hospital bed. What happened? I said to the nurse. Sir, you are lucky to be alive. The nurse said. Oh, why, what happened? I asked the nurse. Well, we had to get rid of some of your left leg. The nurse said as she pulled off the blanket that I was under. I saw that my left leg was slightly shorter than my right. Oh, I said as I didn't know what to say. So what happens now? I asked the nurse. I will let the doctor explain everything to you, she said as he began to walk out. No, you can't leave, I added as I was looking at the missing piece of my leg. The doctor then walked in. George, my man, you are lucky to be alive, he said. But doctor, what about my leg? I asked him. Well, I'm sorry we had to do that, but it was necessary to get you out of the car. It's okay, I said as I understood that it was needed. So what happens now? I asked the doctor. We are going to get you some crutches for you to use until we get someone to make a prosthetic leg for you to use. I then began to tear up as I then realized that I wasn't able to do so many things anymore. Don't get upset, the doctor said as he gave me some tissues. I will order some therapy for you, he continued as I was just confused at everything. What about Jamie? I asked the doctor. Who? He said. Noone survived the car crash. He then added. Oh, I said as I then began to cry over everything. All of a sudden one of the prison officers that was looking after me came into the hospital room and said, George, I'm sorry you have to go through all of this. The officer said as I pointed at my leg. I'm sorry you lost your leg, he continued as he came over and sat down on the chair beside me. What will happen to me? Will I go back to prison? I asked. Well, I have talked it through with other officers, and what you did when the prison bus flipped over was very good. And the fact you had nothing to do with Jamie taking the police car. I had let the judge know and he has decided to quash your sentence completely, he said. I looked at him. So I am a free man? I asked. Well, yes. The officer continued as he then pulled out a box from underneath the bed. Here is all the stuff we took from you when we arrested you, he said as he took out the stuff and gave it back to me. Oh, thank you, I guess, I said as I began to start looking through the stuff the officer had delivered to me. I was then confused. This isn't my stuff, I said to the officer as I showed him a picture of the man and his family. Come on, this clearly isn't me, I explained as the officer was shocked. Oh, sorry, he said as he took everything back from me. I'm so sorry, he continued as the doctor came back in. George, I have something to tell you, he said. I looked at him, scared. What? I asked him. We also found something on your brain when we were in the operating room. I continued to look at him. What do you mean? I asked him. We think we found a tumor on your brain. No, I bellowed as the doctor asked me to quiet down. Please keep it down for the other patients. Am I going to die? I then asked the doctor. I can't comment on that, he said as the officer was listening to everything. He then grabbed my hand. Everything is going to be okay. I then pulled my hand away as I was confused. The officer then pulled out something from his pocket. Here, he said as he gave me a card with his number on. My name is Dermot, and I will always be here for you. But why? I asked him. Because my dad had cancer and we did nothing and I miss him every day. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, I said as he then grabbed his hand once again. Well, Dermot, you will always have a friend in me, I said as the doctor walked away. Me and Dermot looked at each other as I looked into his deep blue eyes. You have lovely eyes, by the way, I said to him. Thank you, the officer said as he came closer and closer. You have something on your lips, he said as he came closer and closer as he wiped it off my face. You are so handsome, he said to me as all of a sudden, I pulled him in and we kissed. The door suddenly opened to see me and Dermot making out. George! The voice cried as I pushed Dermot off me. I looked up and saw who it was. Amy! I replied back as I wasn't expecting her to be here. What are you doing here? I asked her. I heard you were involved in that prison crash that was on the news and I wanted to come see you, but I can see you have someone else here, she said as she reached for the door. No, please, I said, trying to get her attention as I slammed my fist on the bed. Amy, I said as I really wanted to explain what had happened. Amy, I screamed once more as Dermot was looking at me. So I guess you don't like me, he said. Not now, I said as I was trying to ignore Dermot. I grabbed the crutch and tried to chase after Amy, but I couldn't get up. Amy, I shouted once more as one of the nurses came over and said, please sir, other patients are trying to sleep. I understand that, but she isn't listening to me. Please sir, just respect others. The nurse continued as I tried to follow Amy as she waited for the lift. Dermot was still sitting on his chair in the medical bay as he was confused. Amy, please, let me explain, I said as I caught up with her. What, you got 5 seconds to explain, Amy said. He came on to me. I replied. I'm not gay and I have always loved you. Oh please, we were a hookup in your store which has gotten out of control. No, you don't understand, I said as Amy turned around and saw that half my leg was missing. I'm sorry about your leg, Amy jokingly said as she stepped into the lift. Amy please, I said one last time as suddenly I fell to the floor as I lost my balance. Amy stepped into the lift as she didn't care. You don't mean anything to me anymore, she said as she flipped the bird at me. The lift door started to close. Oh, and one more thing, she added as I looked up. I'm pregnant with your child. I was stunned. No, that can't be, we used protection. Amy laughed as the nurse rushed over to assist me. Is everything okay? The nurse said to me as I slowly got up. Amy, I shouted once more as the lift had gone down. I pushed the nurse away after I thanked her for picking me. I'm just not in the mood, I said. Well, we need to get you back to the medical bed, so they can do more tests on you, the nurse replied. No, I demanded as I walked over to the lift and called it for myself. Tell the doctors, I'm out of here, I said as all of a sudden Dermot came out of the room and came rushing over. Are you okay? He said. Oh, what do you want? I replied as I hopped into the lift. He followed me as he pushed the button to the ground floor. No, I'm not okay, I said to him. Why? He said as he grabbed my hand. I tried to pull away but he wouldn't let go. I love you, he said as I was confused. Get off me, I said as I pushed him against the doors of the lift. All of a sudden the lift stopped. See what you have done? I said as I then began to bang on the lift, trying to get it to move. You broken the fucking lift, I said as I snapped at him. Oh, I'm sorry, he said to me as all of a sudden his radio went off. I was chasing the love of my life and you had to ruin it as usual, I said to him as he began to tear up. He picked up the radio as it said, Officer Dermot, come in, we need assistance down at the bakery. Dermot looked at the floor as he didn't have the strength to answer the call. Officer Dermot, the radio repeated. He didn't say anything as I was looking at him. Everything is going to be okay, I said to him as I had a change of heart. It's not, he replied as he dropped his radio. He then fell to the floor as he grabbed his chest. I don't feel very well, George, he said as he was panicking. Dude, it's going to be okay, I said to him as I hopped over. I continued to bang on the lift, trying to make as much noise as possible. What's the point? He said to me as his radio kept going off. Dermot! The radio repeated as I picked it up. Hello? I said to the lady down the line. Who is this? They asked. Yes, I am with the officer. He is collapsing and I think he is having a heart attack. Where are you? The lady said. Well, we are locked in the elevator at the hospital. I'm banging as long as I can to get some attention, but no one is listening. I said. Okay. The radio woman said. I will get you some help. She said as she pulled out her phone and began to phone the hospital. There are people stuck in your elevator and one of them is having a heart attack. She said down the line as I could still hear the radio. Oh, okay. The person at the hospital said as she then put down the phone to raise the alarm. All of a sudden I could hear the alarms going off in the hospital as they tried to open the lift doors, but they were still shut. We are coming to get you. The radio said as I was trying to keep Dermot calm. Dermot, their people are coming. I said to him as he was still laying on the floor clutching his chest. I can't breathe. It's going to be okay. I replied to him as I began to start doing CPR on him. All of a sudden I could hear the lift being pulled up and the doors were starting to open. The firefighters had arrived as they used their big heavy equipment to go and open the doors. The doors opened after 5 minutes of loud banging. The medics rushed in with all their equipment. At this moment, I knew it was too late to catch up with Amy as everyone in my way. I stood there as I watched the medics work on Dermot as I was looking at my watch. The police came in and walked over to me. Excuse me, sir, do you mind if I asked you a few questions? The officer asked. Okay. I replied to the officer as he got out his pen and wrote stuff down. So how did this happen? He asked me. Well, I was chasing after my ex and we jumped in the lift to chase after her because I can't go down the stairs because of my leg. I see. The officer said as the medics had taken out Dermot and rushed him into theater. And how did Officer Dermot get involved? The officer continued. Well, he came to deliver some stuff to me because I have just been released from prison. And how did he end up with you in the lift? Well, he followed me because he heard all the noise from when me and Amy were arguing. And where is your ex now? I don't know. I said to the officer as all of a sudden the lift door closed and the 3 officers were just standing on the outside of the lift as the lift began to start going down. See what you have done. I said. Sir, no need to raise your voice. The officer replied. Sir, just calm down, otherwise you will be arrested. I rolled my eyes. Is this really your game? I said to them as I stepped away from the officers. The lift went down to the ground floor to the car park as I slowly hopped out the lift. Sir, come back here. The officer said as I turned around and pressed the button to send the lift back up. I slowly hopped through the car park as I saw all the cars underneath the hospital. I came across a big black car as the lights switched on. I looked up at the driver. You. I said. I walked over to the driver's seat as they were just sitting there upset. Hey, what's wrong? I said to them. I thought you were going to be angry with me. No, you made your mind up and I accept that. I said to Amy as she unlocked the doors. Come round. She said as she pointed to the other seat. I slowly walked around to get to the other side of the car. I got in. So why did you wait for me? I asked her. Because. Amy said as she had tears in her eyes. Because I still love you. I love you too. I suddenly said as Amy was in shock. But what about that dude? Amy asked me. He came on to me. He was only meant to deliver some stuff to me from prison, then he came all over me. Oh. Amy said as she was shocked. That also happened to me. She said. I looked at her. You were kissed by a serving police officer? I asked her. Amy looked at me. You can't tell anyone this, but I was raped. Amy suddenly said. I was shocked.